Hey, Awesome Foundation. Thank you so much for the opportunity to connect today. My name is Victoria and I'm speaking to you today on behalf of RizeUp Australia. But firstly, just a little bit about myself. So I was born and bred in Newcastle, absolutely love it here and couldn't imagine living anywhere else in the world. I am an accountant by day and working in our family office advisory space as well as philanthropy. Married to a creative, and we have one dog together who we recently adopted from Dog Rescue Newcastle. He is a Kelpie cross and he is an absolute ball of energy, but a huge sweetheart. Pre-COVID, I used to work a couple of days a week from home in Newcastle and also spent a day or two in Sydney working there. I'm very passionate about helping others less fortunate than myself and doing as much volunteer work as I can. I'll tell you a little bit more about RizeUp in a second, but basically my time spent in Sydney led me to volunteering for RizeUp and assisting their expansion there for about 18 months. And that then led me to being asked to be RizeUp's National Grants Manager, which I did accept on a volunteer basis. So a little bit more about RizeUp. They started in Queensland in 2015 and now they've basically expanded to every state and territory in Australia except for one. And they've also got a little bit of a hub started in New Zealand as well, which is very exciting. What RizeUp does is they assist families fleeing domestic and family violence. So what we do is we provide really practical support to other domestic violence services. So we support services such as social workers, women's refuges and things like that. And everything we're doing is really focusing on just helping fill the gaps where they're not able to provide resources in those spaces. So we've got 5 main programs. I won't go into too much detail in them, but basically we help fund urgent relocation costs, access to legal support, medical support like counselling, GP, MRIs, etc. Funding to assist children starting at their new school. And then we've also got our main program, which is our homes program, which I'll tell you more about, which is the focus of our application today. So our homes program is really focused on helping set up families in their new houses. So often they'll leave a violent situation with literally nothing but the clothes on their back and they'll enter a women's refuge. Those women's refuges and their support workers will then assist to put those families into a new home. But you can imagine they've left with nothing except for their clothes and they enter these houses with literally nothing, most of the time with children in their care as well. And so what RizeUp does through our homes program is we swoop into that house before the family arrives and we fill that home with furniture, bedding, linen, laundry items, toiletries, food, basically everything you need to start fresh. So 1 in 3 women have experienced physical or sexual violence by someone known to them. And during 2020, Newcastle recorded the second highest increase rate of domestic violence in all of New South Wales, which I find pretty horrifying for our pretty lazy beach town of Newcastle that I absolutely love. So I found this quite upsetting and had this crazy idea that I could launch RizeUp in Newcastle. And here we are 18 months later and we're basically there. So through a lot of hard work, planning in the background and some support from our other hubs, especially our Queensland hub and our Sydney hub, we've now secured funding in Newcastle to basically secure a storage shed in Newcastle, as well as funding for furniture for our first 70 children in Newcastle, and a couple of smaller furniture items and those sorts of things through some other partnerships that we've managed to create here as well. We've reached out to our first women's refuge to be able to support them in Newcastle, and we're really just looking to get some additional support to stock up our sheds for our first few families. Once we've started, basically, through all of the media coverage we get and extra volunteer assistance, we aim to just show Newcastle that we're here, and similar to how we've expanded in other areas, once we get going, that really drives additional corporate sponsorship, private foundations and that sort of thing. But in the initial kind of growth phase, we're really looking for as much support as possible in a one-off kind of capacity to really help stock up those sheds so that we can actually get started. So that's why we've applied to you guys. I'm absolutely so thankful to be in the top 3 to be considered tonight. And it really just, the $1,000, it doesn't seem like much for groceries, but you'd be amazed how far that goes. And so we would hope to spend that $1,000 to actually stock our first 20 homes with groceries. I think we can all imagine the absolute stress that a family would be under, having left their home, gone into a women's refuge, and now they're having to uproot again to go to a new home. And I think really the last thing that anyone needs to be thinking about is how to put food on the table for their family on those first few nights. And so we're really hoping that you guys are able to support us in feeding those first 20 families. And as I said, all of this funding, once we get started, will really help us put us on the radar in Newcastle and attract additional funding to then enable us to keep expanding. For instance, in Queensland, we now help up to eight families a week, which is just incredible. So with 1 in 4 families in Newcastle every week reaching out for assistance, we would just love to be able to assist those families too. Thank you so much. Hope everyone has a lovely night.